Oh, well, good thing most of our messages back and forth have been via messenger and not phone calls, because I probably would have pronounced it wrong. So Adi.
Mhm.
And then how do you
Yeah.
pronounce your last name?
Campuzano.
Campuzano. Okay, you gotta like those two names together sound really cool. So I'm here
Okay.
with Adi. We have worked together in the past. I've known
Mhm.
of you for quite some time. You are the founder and CEO, right? You're still holding the
Yeah.
CEO title of Dedicated OS. And you are a mom. You're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. You're like
Mhm.
an all-around hustler from what I get from you. I feel like you're into like health and wellness and all these different things.
Mhm.
So I know a bit about you, but I'm excited to have a conversation with you. And I reached out to you for that reason. So thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for having a conversation with me.
It is my pleasure to be here. And, speaking to our history together, my team has always loved working with you when you had your agency and we would share clients. And I've watched your journey and have the utmost respect for you. So I was really happy when you asked me on.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's it's crazy. Your business is, in my opinion, it's such a necessity. It's something that no matter what, like people struggle with it, and
Mhm.
coaches struggle with calling and scheduling and following up in a way, in a manner where they're actually optimizing their, whether it be their leads or just their business in general. Brick and mortar struggles with it.
Mhm.
Agencies struggle with it. Agencies struggle to build it for their clients. And I never realized what a necessity, but also how challenging your business model is until I went and tried to build it. It's like, and I say this with honesty, it is the one thing I feel like no matter what you do, no matter how good you get, people will always be critical. It's like the follow-up calls and the conversations with their prospects is so important to them. Yet, we've had clients in the past that were really bad at it. They didn't do it well, but yet when we took it over and did it, they were very critical. So, yeah, it's why this business? Why did you choose? Like, this is just, it's a, again, it's a necessity, but it's also got to be a little bit stressful, I assume.
Yes. Well, so it is a very challenging business. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. So the business has evolved with the marketplace. Obviously, when I started, there was no online community really. There was, no social media marketing. People were not even using email the way they are now back in 2001. Everything has evolved, and we've been blessed to evolve with the times. So I don't want to say it's all I know because I do have a retail, I have a brick and mortar business and I've done things, but it is definitely not for the faint of heart. And it absolutely couldn't be done without the phenomenal team that I have that integrates and implements. But for most of my career, for probably the first 18 years of the career, I was deep in the business, like super deep in the business, taking calls, doing sales, doing the programming, the onboarding, like just doing every single part of it. But I think one of the unique things about our business is that we build our team from the ground up. So like I did every single role. There's not a thing in the business I haven't done myself extensively. And then everybody that runs the company started out ground level, got hired as an agent. And then we just develop and promote people. And we've been very fortunate to have a team now that's had really good experience in their life before coming to us. And or just has the skill set, like Kelly's our COO. She runs the show and she was a stay-at-home mom who did PTA and, all of the personal business things, but people didn't want to hire her because her resume didn't seem impressive to them. And we scooped her up in a heartbeat. And she's, my MVP. And then same thing, we have Sarah who has extensive experience in the restaurant industry, and she's phenomenal on the team. And I have Betty, who runs our training and development, and she has extensive experience running dance schools, and she's very impressive with military service. She's a sales expert and also was a professional in like ballroom dancing. And And then she ran sales for a franchise of dance schools. So we have all of these unicorns in the business, and they're such a big part of managing it because we are a people business. Like there's no digital product. We use digital products, but we are the product.
So, and for anybody that listens or jumps in live, to clarify, you have a call center business, and I don't want to cheat it in any way by the terminology that I use, but for people that are listening, so they understand, you have a call center business where you essentially allow, whether it sounds like you go direct to consumer for certain businesses, but like, for example, for an agency like mine, you will be an extension of that business. Some people use the term white label, and handle the fulfillment, your team, your business will handle the follow-up, the scheduling, the rebooking, the building rapport, the developing relationships over the phone, like everything from A to Z. So I just want to clarify that, but I want to go way, way back before that. How do you end up being an entrepreneur? Like, why do you do this? Was this something like, oh, you knew when you were younger and you're like, I'm just going to like do my own thing. I can't work for somebody. I can't have a boss. Or did you accidentally fall into it? Like, how does your story start?
My story might have started when I was 10 years old and I was just doing typing jobs. So like I've always worked, I've always been independent. I feel like I've just been kind of gifted with this drive because it's not something that I was necessarily groomed into, and I didn't really have a family of entrepreneurs to model. But I always wanted to do things my way. I've always, been the fish going against the school. I've always just been a very independent spirit. And so I've always worked, I've always had jobs, I always wanted to have my own money. I did not love academics. I did well in school. I was in honors classes, but I didn't like put any effort towards it. So um, when I finished high school, I just went to work. But my first career, I would say, was in martial arts, which is my other business. And so when I finished high school, started working, I started training at a martial arts school in New York, and within a year, I got recruited to work there, and I learned all about sales and just running a business. So I never had this mindset that I can't work for people because I felt like I was like, I'm really good in a collaborative environment, and I don't have an ego about supporting a mission that's not necessarily driven by me. In fact, in the martial arts world, you have your instructor who's your mentor, your teacher, your boss, and so I'm very good at following direction, but I've also very good at voicing my opinion and taking something and running with it independently.
So
So
did you just when did you said before digital, you started dedicated OS.
mhm.
So what were you doing for people? Were you just
We were an
going
answering service.
for brick and mortar, retail? What type of businesses?
Yeah, so we were an answering service. So I just so I'll rewind. So I did the martial arts thing. I was pretty much a sales manager. I ran schools for a couple of years. I co-owned a school. So that was my first business when I was probably about 20. I owned a martial arts school. Then I exited that and then transitioned into the call center. So it started out as, hey, I'm in New York, let's give people an address in New York so that if they're working from home, which was not cool in the early 2000s, we could let them be a little bit more prestigious with a New York address. And then it was, well, we'll give them a phone number, we got a phone system. Well, if I'm going to pick up, I can sell anything. I'm selling $5,000 martial arts packages.
What kind of businesses, not sorry to interrupt you, what kind of
Yeah.
businesses are these people like that you're answering their calls for at this time?
My first client was a mortgage company that
Okay.
used a dialer to get people to call back and respond, and we would take streamlined applications. My second client was a company that did direct mail marketing pieces because that was basically the then equivalent of a digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
And so we helped with that and did sales. We were always across the board. So our concept was portray the image of a large corporation overnight. And so we were an answering service, but we were a very sales oriented answering service. We'll fill out the form, we'll take the streamlined application, we'll take the order. And technology at the time didn't make it really easy, or at least what I had access to. So we were kind of like piecing things together. And then we, over time, were able to upgrade and evolve our processes. So for the first 15 years of the business, I would say we were primarily just inbound. So a small business in any industry, same as what we work with now, doctors, lawyers, home services, contractors, roofers, dentists, everything, psychology clinics. We would onboard with them in such a comprehensive manner that it would basically be like them training the last employee in this role that they have to train. Because once we receive the information and we build it out in our environment, we maintain training and developing the current and future staff that would be touching that account. And it's always a shared environment with a team. So we worked in dedicated teams, and we do work in dedicated teams, so that no business is at the mercy of having all your eggs in one basket with one person who could leave, quit,
Yeah.
change, just,
Yeah.
have a
Go
different situation.
crazy. Yeah. Whatever. Like, yeah, blow up on a client or customer at one point. Throughout this long journey that you've been on, you have two boys now.
Mhm.
How do you, from my personal experience, I say this to my wife all the time, and I say it to everybody. I really truly think I would have never fulfilled my dream of being an entrepreneur and building businesses if it wasn't for my wife, because I really wanted to have family and I really wanted to have kids. And the only way that that I personally could figure out how to pursue entrepreneurship to my fullest was have a wife that was not only crazy enough to support me, but also was like, yeah, sure, we'll have kids and have a family, and then she will do the majority of the work when it comes to kids. And that is how our roles have been, since we got married, since we have kids. And so, I would have had to sacrifice one or the other. I would have had to either give up my career in entrepreneurship, or I would have had to not had kids and had a family with her. But she allowed me to do both. How did you raise two boys and build this business? And like, hearing you answer my last question, I know that you are as passionate as I am about your business and about entrepreneurship. I could tell when I talk to you, and I could tell from conversations we've had. But if I had to raise my two kids and run my business, one of them would be very effed up right now. Like, either the kids would be effed up or the business. So how did
Yeah.
you manage that time? And I know they're a little bit older now, but it's still not easy. Like, how
Yeah.
did you, and how do you manage that?
Um, it's a lot. It's absolutely a lot to juggle, because I am, as much as I have all of this masculine energy and ambition and work ethic, I am still very much um, a caretaker and a homemaker. So the answer is, I've just had, a phenomenal partner in life. So my husband and I have been married for 10 years. Obviously my kids were from other relationships. And so, but I would say that I've been fortunate that, their dads are good people and love them. My kids are loved. And so, um, I've just been able to procure dynamics to where I do a lot, but I do have help. I don't have the dynamic, obviously, being a woman and not, I think it's easier for men to be like, I'm going to build the business and I'm going to do all this, and you're with the kids. I don't do that because I have that maternal instinct. I want to raise my kids. I'm not looking to just, it's just different, a little bit different.
It's
Um,
different.
it's different. Yeah. So I still like, I mean, I can speak now to my life. Like I cook all our meals. I do things at home, but I've also, especially when the kids were younger, I had help. So my husband has a much more flexible schedule because he was a professional fighter. He fought in the UFC, when we got together, he was towards the tail end of his career, and he was able to put the time and energy into kind of helping me while I focused on building the businesses. Now, I restructured my company in 2012. I had a lot of transition for a period of time and had to just basically recreate the life I wanted, um, which we've done for the last 12 years. So, we've been together a long time. So, um, the answer is you just do it. You know, you find the time, you focus on the priority. I am more balanced in my time now. I was very much, I think I was a lot more weighted towards business when they were younger, and I did need more help because it's just hard. But I've had seasons of being, you know, a higher percentage towards the family, and then I've had seasons where there's a higher percentage towards the business. I'm not one of those like 4 a.m. grind and hustle. Like I try to, you know, I do it the way I like to do it. Being in MMA, we've always had nightlife. So like I've always worked out at night. We've always had night businesses. So I'm not a 4 a.m. person, but I am a midnight person.
Hmm.
I'll work till 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. if needed. But um, I just
Yeah.
think that there are seasons where you're focused on one thing more than the other with a lot of overlap consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I love the idea of not adopting like whatever works for everybody else, you know, even down to like the 4 a.m. thing or midnight or whatever. There's examples of successful people that do all different things, like all different, right? And I always think about, I have to take myself back to this often, but I think about, why did I become an entrepreneur in the first place? Like, sure, I love to build things and pursue things, but it was like, so I could do what the hell I want to do. So when I
Mhm.
catch myself straying too far from that, I try to remind myself, like, hold on, the reason you went down this path is so that you can build your life the way that you wanted, you know? So I agree with that. And I want to go back to like how you first started answering what I asked you, which is like, it's kind of a weird, maybe it's always a weird time. Maybe we think, maybe throughout different life cycles, each generation thinks, oh my God, the world is changing and it's crazy. Like I'm sure like my dad and my grandparents thought, holy shit, the world is crazy and everybody's crazy. And now we maybe kind of feel like that. And maybe every generation following us will feel like that. But it seems like a weird time, especially with like you said, masculine energy. And, you know, it seems like a weird time with like, um, politics and different beliefs and like people, it feels like to me people are separating and feel stronger about what they feel strong about, and they're also more willing to vocalize it. And the fact that like I feel like maybe some, I could be wrong here because I'm not a female, but a lot of, I feel like female entrepreneurs feel like some of them feel like, oh, I have to adopt that masculine energy and I have to live that in order to compete in this hyper competitive, crazy go world. And then maybe they do the same thing. They stray away from like aspects of their womanhood or who they want to be. So, you know, the fact that like, I think that shows obviously maturity and just you've been in the game a long time. Like wanting to like understanding where you express both and where you have
Mhm.
both, where you can have both energy. So anyway, no question to you there, but I just think that's cool the way that you described that, like how you know, obviously you naturally care for your kids and you want to do things for them, but it sounds like you still love being a mom. It's not just
Yeah.
like you do that out of necessity and then, you know, business is where your heart really is.
Yeah, and I think that's actually, you know, I think it's a great conversation to have. I've never, I've not, you know, I don't, you know, like Tony Robbins says, don't should all over yourself. I should do this. I should do this. I should do this. I never had this image of like what I needed to be and pushed myself out of my comfort zone. To me, I just did what needed to be done, and that's what I do. But I've never felt threatened or that I was at a disadvantage for being a woman. You know, I started my career in martial arts in the 90s. And it just never occurred to me that there was something I can't do ever for whatever reason. I've never had a victim mentality in any way. I've also never had this like, oh, we need to do our relationship 50-50 and there's rules. Like I do all the laundry, I do the cooking, I pick up, I treat my man like the king of the house because that's the dynamic that I want. I respect my husband as, you know, in every way. That doesn't mean that I'm not strong in my opinions and my choices, that he obviously has great respect for me. So it's just, I'm not a rule follower in any way, but my instincts are always, um, they just are what they are. I work hard. I work my ass off. I parent with as much vigor, and I wife with as much vigor.
Yeah.
So that's just how I mean, I guess I'm just all in on everything, and I don't mind pivoting where I need to. But I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people feel like they have this model, or they have a role model, and they have to like try to go outside of who they are. I just think like do you very well, is,
Yeah.
is like advice that I would have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not intentional, but I think for me at least, like as I've gotten more comfortable with myself and got to know myself better as I got older, it's like I became more of a paradox in a lot of ways. My wife's probably the only one that knows this, but like, everybody else knows me as an entrepreneur. I like to work out, I like the things that I like. And at some point in my life, like I love interior design and I love my house and
Yeah.
I love designing. Like I just did this wall in my house and I'm just, I never, and I think like, even for me, there was a time period where I was like, this doesn't match up with who I am. Therefore, it doesn't make sense. And as I got older, I was like, the fact that it doesn't match up with who I am is probably, and I enjoy it, is probably a reason I should pursue this. Right. And
Yeah.
yeah, being
I could
diverse.
tell you like pretty things. I could always tell that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot, there's a lot, and there's a lot of different there's a lot of people that I meet that surprise me. Like when you really have honest conversations with them, some of the things that partners of mine have shared, like business partners have shared, I didn't unexpected. So
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you do to take care of yourself? I know a little bit about health and wellness and some things you've done, but like, how do you keep your mind right, your body right? Like, how do you like what do you do?
Yeah. So, and I've gotten much better with this over the years, and I was not always great at it. I feel like this is an interesting time where there's a lot of access to great information, but I'm very mindful of how I eat. I don't eat garbage, not to say I haven't gone through seasons where I did, but I'm very mindful about how I eat. I've always been um, fit. I've always been active. I don't like to have seasons where I'm not working out. Um, Spiritually, I've been doing a lot of work, just meditation work. I follow Dr. Joe Dispenza. I do his retreats. It's been like a really good community for me. I tend to be very holistic minded. I am not a fan of pharmaceuticals. I'm not a fan of um, allopathic medicine for like regular things, which is like standard medicine. I just am very dialed into the body's natural ability to heal. I'm very dialed into the effect of energy and your frequency. I feel that you can control the destiny of your life with your intention, and that's been just the last couple of years that I've really opened up to that lifestyle, and it's actually paid me back in dividends. And so, the way I am now is not the way I've always been. I've changed a lot in the last couple of years. I've become more patient. I've become more open. I've become more loving. I've become more um, uh, confident in my ability to create things within my life. And I've also become a lot more open minded about what my life should look like. I had a very rigid view of my schedule, my day, of like what I need to do within my business, what I'm, able to do outside of business. And I've just worked on expanding what I think is possible.
How much do you think everything that you just talked about impacts yourself as an entrepreneur and in business? Like, is there overlap between the two, or if you just lived your life however the hell you want, ate how you want, but you went and did what you needed to do in business, would success be the same? Would you operate the same? Like, how do those two worlds collide?
I think they collide because even as an entrepreneur, you're a human and you need to take care of your body, because if you feel like shit, you can't perform. And so, I also had spent, I've had seasons where I had a lot of like gut issues. And so I've had to focus on my diet and my health because what I was doing wasn't working well for me. And so this past year, it's been a bigger focus on, than, than other years. But I feel like the body communicates to you, and you just have to listen. So when something doesn't feel right or some symptom arises, you have to change something, because if you continue to do what you're doing, you'll get what you've gotten. And I feel like there are messages given to us and things happen for us, not to us. And so I try to listen. So could I be a great entrepreneur eating like shit? Probably, but I wouldn't have energy. Maybe not. I don't know. I wouldn't have as much energy and clarity. I take pride in my body. I think that when you look good, you're more effective. When you feel good, you're more effective. I think when people don't take care of themselves, it absolutely translates into every area of their life, because you can't be a great partner. I mean, you owe it to your spouse to be fit. You owe it to your spouse to be healthy. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your kids. You owe it to your clients. If you don't have energy to do the things required to get your business to where it should be, you're letting your employees down. You're letting your clients down. I just don't like to do things poorly. If I'm gonna, I just want to do things well. And I also feel that we're here on a journey to grow. And if you don't put the work in, you're just gonna have to come back and have another challenging experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I, our kids sometimes eat bullshit. They're younger and it happens. The one thing that I am very proud that me and my wife do is we take care of ourselves and we eat healthy and we work out all the time. So even though they're young and sometimes they get whatever, I feel like what's more important than forcing them to eat healthy now is the example we're setting by how we live our life. And that doesn't only apply to our children, that applies to employees that I have, business partners that I have. Like, some of my good habits have rubbed off on business partners or on my team or on employees. And like, not even selfishly for me wanting them to perform at a higher level, but if they leave the business and they have taken a lesson from me that helps them in their life, whether their health or whatever, like, I'm proud of that. So I like the way you said that. I also believe that, no, I know that I've never taken an IQ test, but I wouldn't guess that I would score really, really high, but I know for sure that through exercise, through crazy sauna, through red light therapy, good sleep, all these supplementation, all these things that I've done, I know for sure that I've actually improved my cognition like over the years. Right. And so, that combined with being an example. And the last thing for me, and this is probably a really bad philosophy, like you're going to probably, you and probably everybody else would say, this is not the way to balance, but I know there are going to be seasons, you used that word earlier, there's going to be seasons or times as an entrepreneur that I'm going to have to push myself beyond my stress threshold, beyond my physical limits. I'm going to lose some sleep. I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to wear down my mind and my body. And the way that I try to compensate for that is by taking care of myself, right? Is by exercising, by taking supplements, by not doing drugs or having any horrible bad habits or just consuming a bunch of shit food, because I know I'm pushing myself. There's going to be days when I sit behind my chair behind a laptop for 12 hours. Like, that's not healthy. There's no way it's healthy. Like, you can get a stand-up desk, you can do all this different shit, but like, it's just not good for us to stare at a screen all day. So my way to at least compensate a little bit is with a health and wellness routine, even though, probably not the best, you know, best thing to do, abuse my body through business. So, yeah.
I mean, we're gonna do what we need to do. Your life can't and shouldn't be about just. I don't think you need to obsess about longevity and routine and this, like all the things. Like, people, you can definitely go off the rails with it. But yeah, we're going to work 12, 14-hour days. I've pulled overnight, I've worked. One time we had a big overhaul and I had to work 36 hours straight. It was insane. There's going to be those times, but if in general you feel good because you're treating your body well, you're treating you're working out, you're being active, you're being fit, you're being happy, and you're eating well, like you're going to have the stamina for that stuff. So it's really about just fueling the engine to have the stamina to sustain those times when you just have to do all the things. And I did all the things for so many years. I still do, and you do, because we enjoy it. I don't want to do nothing. So yeah, I mean, I think that everybody has what it looks like for them. Some people are super disciplined and regimented. Some people are a little more fluid with it. Like some people are like, I have to work out at 6 a.m. every single day or it doesn't happen. Personally, I work out whenever I can, different times of the day. Sometimes it's morning, midday, sometimes it's at night, sometimes it gets skipped, but it's really the sum of all, the average of all the activities, and just making sure that you're always like the markets, right? They go up and down. Same thing with your routines, but you always want to go in the general direction of treating your body well and treating your mind well and making time for family and just, it's a lot to juggle. We have taken
It's
on.
so much. Yeah, it's so much. It's like my recent focus over the years has just been being intentional, and I'm not good at it. My wife would say he's not good at it, right? But I practice being more intentional because time is limited and it can get away from me. And I could be sitting with my family, and next thing I know, I spent 45 minutes reading emails or Slack or whatever. So pivoting here, what's the biggest mistake that you ever made as an entrepreneur, or something that if you could go back, that one thing you're like, shit, I wish I didn't do this, right? Or maybe you
Oh
learned from it.
man. That's interesting. I've had hard times, and I've had a lot of ups and downs, as you can imagine, in 25 years, and been through different situations and economies. And I definitely have stories. As far as mistakes, I would say if I were to do things over again, I don't know that I would say I made an active mistake, but I didn't take the actions that in hindsight I should have taken. So it's not that I did the wrong thing, it's the things I didn't do. I stayed the same for many years in the business. I didn't market for most of my business. We just had great retention and referrals and word of mouth, but like no marketing. And that was enough to keep the business healthy. I would have started marketing sooner. I would have gotten more competent and self-sufficient with it. And just, I could have done things that would have gotten us bigger faster or evolved us faster. But I stayed comfortable for a while, again, during seasons when the kids were younger. And that's the thing, is I would get the business to a certain place, and then I would focus on my kids and the business would run. And then I would revisit, get the business to the next place, and then focus on the family and the kids. And that's how I kind of balanced it, going back to the beginning of our conversation. So and maybe I don't reflect on the past that much. I'm very forward thinking. I can't say that there's necessarily huge mistakes. I did have, a restructuring, and I started the business with a partner, and we had a horrible falling out. But I learned so much that I don't necessarily consider anything to be a mistake. The only if I had to think in terms of regret, which I don't like to do, I would just say that I could have kept myself, I could have kept educating myself more throughout, and been like more, less in the business, more on the business and driving it rather than being in it, like pushing it.
How do you do that now? Is it just as simple as like, how do you like avoid ignorance now? Is it as simple
Mhm.
as joining groups and networks and, getting around people that maybe are above you? Like, what do you do
Mhm.
personally?
I definitely take more time to think, which is very underrated. You really just need time to think and reflect. I do have a phenomenal circle around me of people that I respect, that I'm not afraid to ask and bounce things off of. And you're one of them. You and I had a conversation several months back where I was contemplating a pivot, and your conversation was great. You said, don't do two things poorly, stick with the one thing. And sometimes I think we all need to be reminded of that, and that's something that I've been able to do, is remind other people of that. And sometimes you just have to hear it from someone else yourself. So I let my team do more so that I can have more of like that bird's eye view and change things. I am very fortunate to have a phenomenal technical person in the business, which is my son, and he has changed the entire course of our business to get us set up with integrations, automations, updating our systems, updating all of our tech, our processes, leveraging technology so that because we're a people business, the people can focus on peopling and they don't have to do things manually because he's built processes on the back end that can do the things that were taking a lot of time and bandwidth in our day. So it's trying new things, incorporating technology wherever we can, learning, reading, podcasts, listening to people I respect, being in circles of people I respect. The groups thing, I'm not a big person who needs to be in or maybe I just don't know, but I haven't done tons of masterminds and groups and stuff. I dabbled in it a bit last year. I felt it to be a little bit more of a distraction than a benefit. So I like to just, stay focused within the business and actually do things, and there's so many resources available that I can consume them on my own time while I'm doing other things and then apply them and implement them within the business.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're living my dream right now. The fact that your son works in your business, I dream of the day my daughter is old enough to work in the business. And I hope she does. I'm not going to force her. She can do whatever she wants, which, by the way, I have to say it's her birthday today. So I have to say happy birthday. She's
Ah,
7 years.
happy birthday.
Yeah. In case she watches this, right? She's 7 years old. She's amazing. She's smart. She's like driven already. And I want to build my business now so that one day she's a part of it. That would be like a dream for me, but I'm not going to force her. We have a similar philosophy, just to add this to, on groups and networks. It's not that I think they're a bad thing. I don't at all. In fact, there's ones that I've been a part of that I've taken a lot of value from, and I've connected with people that I still am close with and talk to today. But I find a majority of them are a distraction. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs actually use them as a distraction, maybe unknowingly. They're just like, oh, well, everybody says this is a good thing, so I'm going to join it and I'm going to take time and money. I'm going to get on an airplane. I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to spend time with these people. I'm going to go out and have drinks at night, and I'm networking and I'm learning. And there may be bits of that. But what I've found is usually the information that I come back with, I could have extracted that information sitting right here or through a podcast or Audible or something like that. So maybe it's a bit of the antisocial part of me that thinks that, but there were so many that I joined and spent, I was doing it because it felt like this is what everybody does. And the majority of the value I was getting was not coming from those groups. It was coming elsewhere from just people that I studied, other entrepreneurs that I was studying, whether it be wherever. So yeah.
That was the experience we had last year. My husband and I, we decided, we joined a couple things. We invested quite a bit of money. We put time into it. And I can see the two groups. There's the people who are like legit in their business and like running their business and growing their business. There are people who have gotten to a point where they did all the work without distractions, and now they're just kind of like floating in that super successful place, and it's their social outlet, which is great. And then there are people who think that it's going to be what gets them to their level of success, where it could be for where they're at, but they're at the very beginning stages of business or trying to transition from a job into a business, in which case it could be good for them because they get that support and that proximity to people who are doing it. For me, having built things from scratch multiple times and having developed teams, clientele, sustainability in the marketplace, there's really not much that I found that I was hearing that changed the course of anything for me. And I am self-motivated. I don't need the rah-rah room. I don't need the fist bumps and all of that. I actually, it's like not my favorite thing. I just like to do. And so but I think that it has a place at again in a season for people, and it just also depends on your personality. You know, some people need support and to be lifted in the crowd, and some people don't. And there's not a right or a wrong. It's just know thyself, and you know, find the resources and support that you need. Personally, I always figured things out. I don't even look at my competition. I don't even know who my competition is. I don't model after anybody. I'm very intuitive in my businesses. I, you know, I learn and I implement and I do what feels right within the business. You know, oftentimes even on financial things, I have an intuition about it. And then if I reverse engineer the numbers, I'm always spot on. But that's just how I operate. But
Yeah.
you can't, you know, write an SOP for that.
Yeah, that makes sense and well said. You obviously have a love and passion for mixed martial arts because of your past, your husband. Ironically, me and you align there as well. I grew up watching boxing. My dad used to teach me about every old school fighter. And I remember being 7 years old, literally watching, studying boxing. The first book report I ever wrote was on Jack Dempsey. My childhood idol was Muhammad Ali. I wrote many book reports on him. My dad's cousin actually died in a plane crash with Rocky Marciano. So I wrote book report on Rocky Marciano. And then as I got older, it transitioned to MMA just because the popularity was rising in MMA. How does it feel walking around with a husband who's a former MMA fighter? And I'm sure he could still get down. It's just my selfish question, just knowing wherever you guys go, a problem could be handled if you needed to.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, I started training him in martial arts in 1995. So I've been in it for a long time. And my husband and I actually met in the gym here. You know, when I moved to Texas, you know, I was already in a jiu-jitsu class, and we, you know, we met. So that was a fun story. Um, it's good. You know, I almost don't know what life feels like not having that. Either knowing I can, you know, you know, I mean,
Defend yourself.
he'll say,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, he'll tell people. I'll say it from his perspective, but he's like, my wife could knock out most men, and it's true because I've just been doing it a long time, and I think that there's something to be said for having strength and physicality, and that's also one of the motivations. I never want to be weak, so more than I mean, the mental clarity and the vanity and all that, but I never want to be weak mentally or physically. But yeah, it's pretty cool because he's very, one, recognizable because he had a great career, and two, you can see those ears and know you don't want to mess with that guy. And you know, we own an MMA gym together. We opened it at the end of 2017, and so he's getting in there all the time. He's got fighters under him. He's training with the guys. He's, you know, stays in it, and now it's very mainstream. It's very popular. I think a lot of people train. The world's a little crazier. You know, there really aren't. 20 years ago, you could have a fist fight and be done. Today, you know, it's going
Yeah.
to turn into a gunfight or something else crazy, but that's another story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys encourage your kids to take up martial arts?
Oh yeah, that's not even is a non-negotiable in our house. So the boys have always trained since they were. I think Michael, my oldest, started when he was still 2, and and we were still in New York, and he had started there. So he did. He trained all throughout. He wrestled in high school, and now he just does. You know, he's got that foundation. So now he's an adult. I don't make him do anything. He just stays fit. He's very strong. He stays fit. Jason, our youngest, he's done martial arts also since, you know, his whole life, and he can handle himself, and he just started high school, so his schedule is a little different. So it's more, again, like a marathon. It's a lifestyle thing. We're not every day, all the time, because they're not passionate about it, although they love it, and it's just a regular thing, just like doing anything else. And then our household is interesting because, you know, the boys get into the same room and they're wrestling, and it's like, you know, somebody's going over the couch, and
Yeah.
Somebody's getting flipped. So
I selfishly wanted to take the conversation here just because, I know your path with martial arts and I have a love for it.
yeah.
Just in your words, what lessons have you taken from that, or what lessons do you think that people can take, like not only just defending themselves, which obviously is
Mhm.
important. But I'm with you today. Avoidance is probably better because you're gonna end up getting shot with people. It's crazy. But
Mhm.
like, what things have you learned on the mat that have translated to real life?
Um, you get comfortable being uncomfortable, and things intimidate you a lot less when you are putting yourself in dangerous situations, but it's a controlled environment. So, I mean, I started training when I was 18, and it gave me the confidence to do anything. Like, I don't hesitate and I don't feel intimidated by other people. And it's helped me feel confident in um, talking to people, going places, doing things. I'm careful and cautious. I'm not cavalier about safe environments or not, but talking to people, putting myself into situations where I'm doing new things never phases me. And I think that when you know how to kick someone's ass, you are willing to try things a little bit differently, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that could happen is that you're physically hurt, right? Like, what's the worst thing? You could die, you can get your ass kicked, you can get hurt. When you have the confidence through training in martial arts, you know that your body can handle it, your mind can handle it. You're not going to be completely thrown off and taken off guard if something physical did happen. And you have the ability to think through um, stressful situations better because you've been in stressful situations. So I've always felt that more than anything, the confidence of doing it was going to be the best asset. And we teach kids at our gym, and we teach young adults and everybody. And I've always thought that the confidence that you get from being in uncomfortable situations is going to be the biggest takeaway from training in martial arts.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking with me. And for those of you out there that check this out, or that know me, or that listen to this, and you're interested in knowing more about Dedicated OS, go check out my friend Adi. Go check out her business. You guys are doing awesome things, and you are doing awesome things. So thank you so much for having a conversation with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Gil. It's been fun. I really appreciate it.
If people are interested
Yeah.
and want to know more about what you do, where can they check it out? What was your website or something?
Absolutely. So our website is dedicatedoffice.com. The full company name is Dedicated Office Solutions. Anybody who's interested in connecting with me on my personal page, I welcome that. Adi Campuzano. I'm sure I'll be tagged on this as well. And then, yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty available through both LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, just Dedicated Office Solutions.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gil.